A November 19th board meeting now will come to order. And I'd like to call on Mr. Jeff Lewis to have our invocation, please.
Heavenly Father, we pause this time, Lord, to lift you up and offer our thanks to you. Better trust than we just, Father, we just acknowledge that. Lord, we just want to pray for our nation, for our state, and our local communities, Lord. Continue to end with this virus, Father. We just pray that you will intervene and bring the healing. All pray. Father, we thank you for this department, for the state government. We thank you for this time we can gather together as a board and conduct the business at hand. Lift all these proceedings up in the name of Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to welcome everybody to our November 19th meeting. Some of our board members, of course, are here. Some are on the phone or other types of communication. And I hope everyone is in the audience is also our guest, as well as some of our employees here. Thank you for being here this morning, and I hope everyone is have a great day. At this time, I would like to have a roll call of the board members, please.
Okay, Congressional District 1, Ms. Purcell. 2, Mr. Floyd.
Yeah, right.
3, Mr. Westmoreland. 4, Mr. Brown. 5, Ms. Key. 6, Mr. Abel. 7, Mr. Bowen.
Here.
8, Mr. Golden.
Here.
9, Ms. Dunn. 10, Mr. Boswell.
Here.
11, Mr. Lewis.
Here.
12, Mr. Grantham. 13, Ms. Lemon.
Here.
And 14, Mr. Sharon.
Here.
Okay, thank you. At this time now, we will have a approval of the October board meeting. I'd like to ask a motion for the approval of the minutes. Is there any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. At this time, I'd like for Mr. Albert Shelby to come forward to give us an update on our program delivery, please.
All right, so good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, and members of the board. I'm here to present the projects the department is proposing to advertise in the December 2020 letting. So before we present December, here are the FY 2021 results. We have led a total of 135 projects in FY 2021. This chart shows the number of projects by that improvement type. The value of these 135 projects is approximately $366 million through the October 2020 bid awards, with 130 GDOT-let projects worth approximately $361 million and 5 local-let projects worth approximately $5 million. This chart shows the dollar amount distribution by improvement type, with maintenance, bridge, and road projects making up the bulk of those types. Here are the results of the October 2020 letting. Of the 27 GDOT-let contracts presented to the board, 25 were awarded and 2 were withdrawn. So now I'm going to discuss the projects in the December 2020 letting. We have a total of 22 projects with 21 GDOT-let and 1 local-let. The next 2 slides list the 20 non-TIA projects arranged by congressional district. So as you can see with this slide, we are letting a variety of projects throughout the state to address bridge, capacity, enhancement, maintenance, and safety issues. So the first highlighted project will consist of diamond griding and resealing the joints on the mainline travel lanes along with replacing the inside and outside asphalt shoulders with roller compacted concrete on I-516 from Mildred Street to the west edge of the bridge over the railroad for a distance of 5.75 miles. This section has had slab repairs as needed, with the most recent occurring in 2015, about 5 years ago. This next project includes the installation of 5 dynamic message signs on overhead sign structures located in Chatham, Cherokee, and Cobb counties. That also includes one leaving the Port of Savannah. The fiber optic cable will be installed in the outside grass shoulders or in the urban medians. Additional concrete poles with closed circuit television camera units will be installed at or near each location. These signs can quickly relay traffic condition information to drivers in these busy areas. The next project is the replacement of the structurally deficient bridge on State Route 520 US 280, both eastbound and westbound over Bagley Creek. The bridge was constructed in 1931, which is 89 years ago, for the original State Route 520. Its parallel bridge, which we're also replacing, was widened and constructed in 1984, which was 36 years ago. It's an example of us focusing on maintaining our existing infrastructure. Here's a ground view of one of those bridges to be replaced. The next project will construct a single-lane roundabout at the intersection of Eisenhower Parkway, which is State Route 22, and Fulton Mill Road. Funding for this project is coming from a special federal fund source called High Risk Rural Roads. This project will reduce crash frequency and severity while improving the operational efficiency of this particular intersection. This next project is the replacement of the structurally deficient bridge on Shiloh Road over Mims Branch in Dooley County. The existing bridge was constructed in 1930, which was 90 years ago. And here's the ground view of that bridge to be replaced. This next highlighted project will resurface State Route 85 alternate from north of State Route 116 in Harris County to the CSX rail crossing in Meriwether County for a distance of 8.4 miles. This section was last repaved in 1998, 22 years ago. This next project consists of constructing a new full diamond interchange on State Route 400 at McGinnis Ferry Road. This project will add a northbound and southbound auxiliary lane on State Route 400 between the Wynwood Parkway ramps and the McGinnis Ferry Road ramps. The project will replace the existing bridge over State Route 400 and widen McGinnis Ferry Road from Bethany Bend to the intersection of Union Hill Road onto Ronald Reagan Boulevard to Counselor's Way. The replacement bridge is designed to span future managed lanes on State Route 400. It also includes a 10-foot wide multi-use path. This next project is the replacement of the structurally deficient bridge over State Route 15 US 441 over Grove Creek in Banks County. The existing bridge was constructed in 1936, 84 years ago. And here's a ground view of that bridge to be replaced. The next project will widen the existing US 441 State Route 24 roadway from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. The project begins at the Putnam-Morgan County line and ends just north of Pierce Dairy Road. The total project length is approximately 8 miles. This project is part of the Governor's Road Improvement Program known as GRIP, and it will add additional capacity as well as support economic development in the region. Now we'll talk about the TIA projects.
Thank you, Albert. Good morning. TIA is proposing to let 2 projects in the December letting, both in Lanier County, Congressional District 8 in southern Georgia. We will be resurfacing, a minor resurfacing and minor widening and resurfacing of Boyette Road from State Route 11 to the Lowndes County line, and Royals/Giddens Road. This project will start at Boyette Road to Teeterville Road. The total projects will be combined in one contract and will resurface approximately 9 miles with a TIA investment of approaching $2.4 million.
Thank you. So we have 22 projects proposed for the December 2020 levy. This chart shows the distribution by improvement types. The estimate of the projects in the December levy is approximately $140 million. This chart shows the dollar amount distribution by improvement type. Now I ask for your consideration for approval of the proposed project presented for the December 2020 levy.
Thank you, Mr. Shelby. Is there any questions from Mr. Shelby about these projects? If not, we'll have a motion for approval. Any other questions? If not, signify by saying aye for approval.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Shelby. Motion carried. At this time, I'll ask Commissioner Russell McMurray to come forward and give his commissioner's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and ladies and gentlemen of the board. It's great to be before you today. It's hard to believe we're in November, but we are. So let me start with a few items here like we normally do. We'll start with state fund collections for October, a total $165.6 million. The break on that is about 154 of excise and about $12 million in fees. That brings our year-to-date, fiscal year-to-date, total to $664.3 million. $617 million of that is excise, $47 million are fees. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of relation to how we're comparing year to date this year back to last year. Motor fuel collections are down 0.5%. It's pretty outstanding, only 0.5%. The highway impact fees year to date, again, that's heavy vehicle EV fees, are up 32%, almost 33%. And no surprise, year-to-date hotel fees are down 31%. That's actually tracking a little better than we had forecast. So overall, for year-to-date, when you total all those dollars together, we're down about 3%, which is performing at or better than what we would have forecast as in relation to last year. So I would say that's pretty encouraging, all things, knowing where we are at this point in the pandemic as it relates to the state fiscal year. So just want to share that for relation. The next item I have is employment updates. 3,713 full-time employees. We have about 47 of our maintenance temporary operators. Since last month, or during last month, we hired 39 employees to fill vacancies, promoted 19 employees, and we had 63 employees separate employment for retirements and other purposes. Again, I think you're beginning to see our numbers come back a little bit. It's taken a while to start getting people back in the door, and proud of our HR teams and all our managers for being able to move forward on trying to fill back some vacancies. Our procurement report, again, for professional services, we had 132 contracts valued at $43.6 million. Again, that's for engineering, right-of-way, geotechnical, all the engineering that it takes to advance projects to lettings. Brings our fiscal year to date to 633 contracts valued at $281.9 million. So again, keeping the pipeline flowing of projects and getting them to the point that you guys vote on them for, like you just did for Albert. Let me move into a very abbreviated list of projects open to traffic in view of time. I just wanted to highlight a few of them, starting in Congressional District 2, down in Sumter County, GDOT District 3. This is a TIA project in heart of Georgia. It's almost 5.5 miles of reconstruction of District Line Road, beginning at US 280 and going over to State Route 49 at the intersection of South Georgia Tech Parkway. So very excited to have this project. It was widening and reconstruction and doing some intersection improvements along the way. Reeves Construction Company was the contractor. It represents a $10.9 million investment, of which almost all of that was TIA. and made possible by TIA. So congratulations to Kenneth and his team. And I know Mr. Floyd knows that the South Georgia Tech Parkway was one of our earliest TIA projects. So this is an entire corridor in Sumter County that now has been upgraded all because of TIA, even with a fancy roundabout right there. So good. Then, also this project was completed ahead of schedule. Have to throw that in there. Moving into Congressional District 9, Pickens County, again, a mobility improvement project in Pickens County, which is GDOT District 6. Mobility improvements take different forms, and this one took the form of passing lanes on State Route 53, about 1 mile and 4/10, which again gives opportunities to get around slow-moving vehicles as you get into the hills of northeast Georgia. The contractor was Vertical Earth Incorporated, represents an $11 million investment. Moving in Congressional District 10 in Barrow and Walton counties, up in GDOT District 1, a capital bridge replacement, about 6 miles of construction to replace the bridge at the Walton-Barrow County line on State Route 11. The contractor was E.R. Snell. It replaced a bridge that was built in 1942, so it had served us well. It represents a $7.3 million capital bridge replacement investment. Project was also completed ahead of schedule. So those are things I'd like to talk about. Let me move in now to some other updates. And the last bullet on the slide is I wanted to make sure that all of you had an awareness of the TRIP report that has just come out. And TRIP is actually the National Transportation Research Group, which is a private nonprofit research organization focused on transportation. Their report for Georgia is called Moving Georgia Forward, and it examines transportation, travel, population trends, road and bridge conditions, safety, congestion, and also some freight measurements as well as it relates to funding needs in Georgia. And what I like about TRIP is, again, they're a private nonprofit, but they utilize a lot of data sets. It's a very comprehensive report. They use reports from the Federal Highway Administration, from us at GDOT, reports from the American Road and Transportation Builders Association. They also take data from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. They take census data, and also the Texas Transportation Institute, which does a lot of good work, and also information from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So they aggregate lots of different data sets. And this year is really good because they broke the report into 12 regions across the state. So if you go to that website there, you can pick out your congressional district and what regions you sort of fit in, and really focused on counties, cities and counties, and how many roads are in fair condition, poor condition, or good condition. And sort of overwhelmingly, there's a lot of roads that are in fair and poor condition. And so they also do a list of bridges in those regions, sort of the top list of bridges that need to be replaced, some 1,551, I believe, across the state. Some of those are GDOT bridges that we're aware of. Some of those are local bridges. So again, I would just encourage you to take a look, go to the website, and you can click on your region, or if you want to read all 12, have fun reading all 12. It's voluminous, but they do a very good job. And I know, I believe Mr. Grantham was on a call. I was on a couple of calls with them as well as we rolled out some of these reports. So very good work by TRIP. And that's something we rely on too, as we really take a hard look at their data. All right, let me move forward. You know, it's always great to talk about awards and success and acknowledgement. And I'd like to start with this acknowledgement of our own Stacey Key for receiving the Women in Transportation Award this year for Diversity Leadership Award. So, you know, it's no denying Stacey's passion and continued commitment for success for minority and women-owned businesses across Georgia. And they highlighted her many contributions to diversity and inclusion through her role as president and CEO of the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council, and which she served in that role for 12 years. Stacey, man, time's flying by. But under this, yeah. You know, this was something I didn't understand the full impact until this award, and I wanted to make sure I shared with you guys. Her impact serves approximately 400 corporations and now more than 700 minority business enterprise firms. So big reach, that's a big impact. So congratulations, Stacey. I want to make sure you were well recognized for that. Speaking of award ceremonies, I don't know if you know, there's been things on TV, the CMAs and the other stuff, but we had our own award ceremonies, just like everybody's doing virtually, to highlight the great work of the men and women of GDOT this year. Obviously, couldn't do it in person the way we like to do it and how we traditionally have done it. But on Thursday, October 29th, by using Teams and basically YouTube videos, we were able to have a hybrid in-person, a virtual in-person and recorded award ceremony. We recognized 43 recipients of awards across 7 districts and from all 11 divisions. And those 43 represented over 30 offices. So even during COVID, more than ever, it's important to recognize the great work of the men and women of GDOT. And so we're glad we're able to do that. And and a hats off to our strategic communications team. They did an outstanding job of making people like me look sort of good, and the team. And then in the bottom right, you can see they had little clips in there of like from real award ceremonies, like the Academy Awards, of applause, and they integrated that all in there virtually. That's really done well. Just a fantastic job.
When he quits.
So, all right. Now let me move forward. Again, another recognition is Georgia DOT has been recognized nationally and ranked #1 as the highest percentage of first responders trained through the Strategic Highway Research Program we affectionately call SHARP 2. This is the Federal Highways Administration information sharing us the status report that we ranked #1 with more than 80% of all first responders being trained in Georgia in incident clearance and training. So this National Incident Response Training Program is designed to help transportation agencies obviously save time and money and lives, most importantly, through innovative solutions to our common transportation challenges. And this SHARP 2 initiative is a result of a partnership with Federal Highway Administration, AASHTO, and the Transportation Research Board. The training really focuses on interagency coordination and communications to improve safety and quick clearance of incident management. And it certainly shouldn't go without saying that our HERO program is a shining example nationally of how to do that, and also our partnership in the TIME Task Force, not only in Metro Atlanta now, but across the state, has a real positive influence on quick clearance of accidents and crashes, such that we don't have secondary crashes and more congestion and backup due to crashes. So great job, great recognition. And I have to admit that a few years ago, we were sort of down in the middle of the pack as it relates to how many people we train, and now we've gone to #1. So that's the #1 you like to be on. All right, let me move forward to the next item. It seems like for the last 3 board meetings we had, when I stood before you, there was some kind of tropical storm brewing or inclement weather event, and today is a beautiful blue sky day across the state, and for that we're very grateful. But I'm always very grateful for the work of the men and women of GDOT as they respond to storms. And last month it was Tropical Storm Zeta, which made landfall October 28th as a Cat 2 hurricane. Certainly had impact on Georgia due to high winds and rains. I want you to know all of GDOT crew members were loaded up and ready to go and respond, and that they did. While districts 2, 4, and 5 didn't have as much damage as anticipated, or little to no damage, District 1, 3, 6, and 7 certainly took a hard hit, as you remember, especially with widespread power outages. At one point, we had 174 roads closed due to downed trees, and they responded very quickly. In fact, within less than 24 hours, the roads were clear unless it had a power line in it, and that we were waiting on power to get back open. So again, when powers are out, traffic signals are out. So we had 1,100 traffic signals over time that were either out of power or damaged. And our district crews did a great job of either getting the signals on generators or the signal heads where the bulbs are, getting those straightened back around so that you could see them if the wind had taken them and turned them. So they did a great job of doing that. And in addition, we had a little bit of infrastructure damage here up on State Route 60 in Fanning County. This is at the Tocora River, where the river got out of its banks and washed out the side of the road and the slopes and the shoulders. And the picture on the left, you can see there was a vertical drop. If you had run off the road, you were going in the river. So the District 6 team worked all weekend to get that open and safe back up so that we didn't have further erosion of the roadway and made sure it was safe. So congratulations to them. And also District 1 worked over the weekend getting some log jams out from under a bridge up in Turner's Corner up in White County. So congratulations again to our district's teams to respond and always, again, putting themselves before others for the safety of the traveling public. And again, I remind you, they're doing this during a pandemic. So we don't need to forget how important their work is. So from that, let me move into, again, working in a virtual way, another virtual groundbreaking for Interstate 85 expansion, which we call Phase 2. This is the project that goes from State Route 53 in Brazelton up to the US 129, State Route 11 exit in Jefferson, Georgia. Again, a design build contract to advance making that 6 lanes. Very excited to have this project underway. The current schedule completion date is in 2023. So have to do things a little differently. So again, last thing I want to update you on, I believe, is great success again. I'm pleased to announce for the 3rd consecutive year, GDOT has brought home the People's Choice Award in the National Americans Transportation Awards. Yep, that deserves a big round of applause. This is, this, again, third year in a row at a national level. So this year's People's Choice Award went to the Columbus Riverwalk, which is a TIA project and has been underway for many years. It already garnered impressive attention already because it won the American Transportation Award for Quality of Life and Community Development for the small project category. I informed you that, I think, last month. But it went on and competed and actually won the overall award nationally as the People's Choice Award. We competed against 12 other projects across the country of all sizes, I might add, some very big projects as well. And again, with all of your help voting for this, we were successful. Now, not only is it nice to get an award in recognition, but this was special because the People's Choice Award winner comes with $10,000 cash prize, of which GDOT donates to a worthy cause, which has an impact or could benefit the award-winning project. So today, I'm also proud to announce that the $10,000 cash prize will be donated by GDOT to the City of Columbus for the maintenance and upkeep of the Riverwalk project. At this time, I'd like to ask Kenneth Franks, our TIA administrator, to come up to the podium with me and bring a big check. And also ask the planning director from the City of Columbus, Mr. Rick Jones, to join us at the podium. And we're going to give Rick a big check. I don't know if that'll fit in your wallet, Rick. It'll fit in the car. Let's do a photo real quick. Rick, I'd love to have you just say a few words. And as Rick comes up, I just want to, again, commend him for what he does in Columbus. Rick and I have had a long working relationship, and he's been the steady rock there at Columbus for many years. We won't say how many, Rick, because it dates both of us. But he's done such a great job and a great partner on many things. And I'm just excited, again, that you guys have won this, and this is something you guys can use going forward. So please.
Good morning to you from Columbus. It is my honor and privilege to be here and represent the citizens of Columbus to accept this award. This is a project that's been going on since about the mid-1990s. And a lot of folks don't realize the Riverwalk itself is nothing more than a great big sewer project that Columbus Waterworks started back in the mid-1990s. We have now completed that project with the help of the TIA funds, which we are very proud to have. And this $10 million project that we finished last year is now going to be the real shining star for everything else. The real importance of all this, of course, though, is the award. It gives us a lot more recognition to it. But Commissioner, we could not have done it without your help and without Kenneth's help in this as well from the TIA side. It means a lot to us. And so we wanted to share that award with you. We're going to go back and share it with our citizens, and just let us know that whenever you want to come our way, we'll be glad to have you. We'd love to see you in Columbus, and we'd love to show you our Riverwalk. It's a great thing to see. So, Commissioner, thank you for the opportunity, and board members, thank you for allowing me to come today and speak to you. Thank you.
And Rick, I'll say I got messaged when we got this award again virtually. I got messaged by many other states saying that is awesome. We'd love to come check that out. I told them to come on down. We're ready for them. So again, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. I'll be glad to entertain any questions or comments.
Well, let me say, Commissioner, that was a great report. I mean, all the recognitions this morning, Stacey, and this award, the Columbus Riverwalk Award, which is, I believe we voted on that along the way, and thank you for all those who supported it. It's such a great project, and it really gives the state of Georgia and the city of Columbus great impact on revitalizing that part of their community, and as well as all the other employees awards. And it is so wonderful to hear about what's going on inside of DOT and across our state, and it does have a great impact. So while I'm talking, I'd like to go ahead, Commissioner. I was going to do this at the end of the meeting, but I think I'll do it just right now, and with all the things that are going on. For you who do not know, our Commissioner, Russell McMurray, was elected unanimously as AASHTO's Secretary and Treasurer of the 50 states of the United States. And congratulations, Commissioner, for your great work throughout the United States and with AASHTO.
I told them I could count to 10, and they were good.
Well, let's have a speech. Thank you for that great work. I know you're well respected, and we're so fortunate to have you as our commissioner, and what people think of you across the other DOTs.
Thank you.
Reiterate, thank the city of Columbus for all that they have done to help this area of the state. And Columbus is a city on the move, and we appreciate what they're doing.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, this
If
is
not,
Dana.
thank you again, Commissioner, for that great report.
Mr. Chairman, this is
At
Dana.
this time, I would ask Carol Comer to come forward, who is head of our intermodal division. She's going to give us an update on air carrier study and a statewide economic impact study update. Thank you, Carol, for being here.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board and commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity today to present the findings of our statewide aviation economic impact and air service studies. To be sensitive to the number of presentations that we have today, I'm going to ask you to stow your seat back tray, strap on your seat belt, and get ready to take off as we fly through a lot of information in a very short period of time. Our statewide aviation economic impact study focused on 7 commercial service and 95 general aviation airports. And we also incorporated the results of the City of Atlanta's 2017 economic impact study for Hartsfield into the results. And all the economic impacts reported in the study reflect pre-COVID-19 conditions, and we'll conclude the presentation with a brief overview of those impacts. The study estimated economic impacts in 4 categories, including airport management, business tenant impacts, impacts from capital construction projects, and commercial and general aviation visitor spending for more than 2.5 million visitors that arrive in Georgia by air each year. Excuse me, let me go back. There we go. The direct economic impacts were analyzed using 4 different measurements. which included employment, annual payroll, and annual spending. The total economic activity is the sum of all payroll and spending impacts and represents all impacts starting at the airports that then flow into the state's economy. The methodology used in the study followed FAA's prescribed guidelines. The direct impacts were collected via airport visits, summaries, and interviews, and were then entered into an M-Plan database, which is an industry standard for economic modeling to estimate the indirect and induced impacts that arise from a multiplier effect. Combined, the direct, indirect, and induced impacts equal the total annual economic activity. When all 103 public airports in Georgia were evaluated, which includes Hartsfield, the total annual statewide economic activity is estimated at almost $74 billion. This is an 18% increase in economic activity that was reported in our last study conducted in 2011. The 103 airports support total statewide employment estimated at 450,000 jobs, which is actually a 5% decrease from our 2011 study. And although the employment declined from the last study, the estimated payroll actually increased 14% to over $20 billion. For the 102 study airports, which exclude Hartsfield, the total annual aviation economic impact activity is estimated at almost $7 billion, which was a 58% increase from our 2011 study. The total jobs attributed to these airports is approximately 67,000, which is an 83% increase from 2011. It's also interesting to note that almost 70% of the economic impacts are generated by airport business tenants. There was also a triple-digit increase of 230% for annual payroll from 2011, which rose from 1.5 billion to 3.5 billion. The study findings highlight the significant return received from investments in Georgia's statewide system of airports, where aviation supports approximately 13% of all employment in the state and accounts for an estimated 15% of Georgia's gross state product. For the study, we were able to access FAA's flight tracking database, and depicted with animation on this slide are more than 3,000 general aviation aircraft arrivals and departures that took place on a random day we selected in 2019. And these are all from our general aviation airports. There are also an additional 2,800 arrivals and departures that take place daily from our air carrier airports that are not depicted on the slide. You can clearly see the connectivity our airports provide to more than 19,000 domestic airports and 40,000 international destinations. The runway links at 60 of our general aviation airports allow for non-stop general aviation flights to international locations in 68 countries. The connectivity provided by our airports is an essential underpinning to the state's economy and provides essential access for our businesses to the global economy. Next, we'll present the findings from the statewide air service study. We also update this study approximately every 10 years as it aids us in carrying out our statutory requirements to promote and encourage the state's aviation facilities for air commerce. The study is also a way for us to gauge the health of our air carrier system and identify any needed actions. Prior to beginning this study, we were concerned with national trends in the industry where smaller communities were losing air service due to airline consolidation and changes in aircraft fleets where airlines were moving away from smaller jets that were usually more expensive to operate. Georgia has 8 commercial service airports with scheduled airline service. Airports are classified by the FAA based on the number of annual passengers they serve. Our study focused primarily on our FAA designated non-hub airports, which include Albany, Augusta, Brunswick, Columbus, Macon, and Valdosta. We also collected data on our large hub airport at Hartsfield and our small hub airport in Savannah. The study consisted of identifying industry trends relative to airline business models, fleet sizes, and routes, conducting a passenger leakage analysis, and a benchmarking analysis of performance indicators for peer airports. And finally, we conducted a survey of other state-sponsored air service programs. This slide shows an inventory of our air carrier airports and their operating statistics. As you can see, most of the airports experienced double-digit growth in passenger enplanements in the 5-year study period, with the exception of Columbus. The 57% growth at Savannah is extremely impressive and the result of new carriers that were added during the study period. The Macon Airport recently reinstated its air service, so there were no growth statistics to report. However, their enplanement numbers for the first 2 years are very encouraging for their service. The Athens Van Epps Airport is also listed. However, they lost their FAA-supported essential air service in 2014, but this year in 2020 have received a US DOT Small Community Air Service Development Grant to help them with reinstating their air service. The leakage study showed that our non-hub airports lose a considerable number of their potential passenger enplanements to Hartsfield if they are located within 100 miles, which accounts for the low growth rates shown earlier for Columbus, Macon, and Athens. The study noted that passengers were willing to drive more than 200 miles to another airport in order to access flights with lower fares and better schedules. Also, a significant number of Georgia residents use low-cost carriers operating from airports in Florida, which impacts our airports in Brunswick, Valdosta, and Albany. When we analyzed the average load factor, which is the seats that are filled per departure, we were significantly above the national average. The blue line on the graph represents the national average, and you can see in 2017, 18, and 19, our airports were 12 to 16% above the national average load factor of 64%. This signals that our non-hub airports have the ability to support additional service. And prior to the pandemic, Delta was poised to add an additional flight at each of our non-hub airports. However, those expansion plans have been paused for the moment. Key takeaways from our survey of other state DOTs showed successful grant programs that provided funding to airports for marketing programs to promote air service. And several states also provided airline subsidies or guaranteed revenues through their state economic development agencies. However, these programs were unable to successfully sustain their service after that funding expired. In closing, we must acknowledge that COVID-19 has undoubtedly had a very negative impact on many facets of the air transportation industry. Commercial passenger enplanements are running 40% of what they were for the same period last year, and at Hartsfield, operations are down 25%. There are also 160 commercial airports nationwide that are within 180 miles of a large hub airport like we have here in Hartsfield, which could be a factor for us as airlines continue to reevaluate and retool their business models. Air cargo activity, on the other hand, based on increased e-commerce demands, has experienced a 160% increase over their pre-COVID conditions.
Carol, just one moment, please. Ms. Lemon, did you have a question?
Not for Carol, Mr. Chairman, it was for Russell, so she can finish her report.
She wanted to ask you a question.
Okay.
Not for Carol, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
I'll just continue. I only got 2 or 3 more sentences and then I can take any questions. But
Sure.
Certainly air cargo has increased due to the increase in e-commerce. And also our fractional ownership business jet operators like FlexJets and NetJets are reporting 180% increase in their flights. So we're seeing a shift sort of from the airlines and partially being absorbed over in the air cargo and business aviation sectors. The aviation industry's return to 2019 conditions is still likely several years away and will obviously depend on deployment of an effective vaccine and a recovery of the economy. So with that, I'll take any questions, and particularly Ms. Lemons.
Okay, is there any questions now? Kevin?
I'll jump in. Carol, can you give me 1 or 2 examples of how a report like this is actionable for GDOT and for your department?
how it's actionable, certainly for the air service study, we will go in and do some further investigation into the marketing programs that are used in other states to see if that's something that we feel like would be beneficial for our air carrier airports, for the non-hubs. We will also obviously take this information and share it with our air carrier airports in order to create certainly an awareness of our position nationally and provide some additional technical data for the airports to be able to use in their negotiations with the airlines for additional service. And certainly, I think the economic impact study, there's not certainly, something that we go out and do with it, particularly, as you say, is actionable, but it certainly helps us validate that the investments that we are making in the airports are providing a positive return on investment for the local communities and for the state.
Is there any other questions? If not, thank you so much for the report, Carol. It's a great report.
Great. Thank you so much.
And in this time, I'll ask Kenneth Franks to come forward to give us an update on TIA projects.
Morning again, Chairman, members of the board. I'm here to provide a brief annual update for the Southern Georgia region. Just a reminder again, we have 4 regions across the state. We cover a pretty significant chunk of the state, with CSRA, Heart of Georgia, and River Valley all being the original 3 regions, and Southern Georgia being added a little bit over 2 years ago. Bring you an update on the collections. Southern Georgia is down there in bold. To date, we have collected $112 million and some change in Southern Georgia. $84.5 million has gone to fund the approved investment list in Southern Georgia, with $28 million being dispersed to the counties and the cities in the Southern Georgia region via the discretionary formula. Where does that put us at in relation to our 10-year projections? We've collected 112. We were projected at this time to have collected 97, almost 98 million. So we are 15.1% over projections in Southern Georgia. Puts us in a fantastic place. Even looking at this year, we thought early in the year with the global pandemic going on, we may see a drop in sales tax collections, but we've actually seen 2.2% year-over-year growth for 2020 in relation to 2019 growth. So we're really happy to report that. A reminder of where we are in the time frame. Tax collections began on October the 1st of 2018. So we have just passed the two-year mark. We're halfway through Band 1. So we've got 2 more years to complete the Band 1 or get Band 1 projects to construction. And we have already advanced and started on many Band 2 projects, working on the PE and the right-of-way acquisition phases. 151 projects total in this 18-county region. The initial investment list total was $408 million and some change. We currently have 24 projects in construction, 42 projects complete to date, and expenditures of over $32 million. Last year at this time, whenever I brought this report to you, we had expended a little bit over $2 billion. We ramped that up this year, spent a little bit more than $30 million, and believe we finished, or we advanced 49 projects to construction this year. Last year we had advanced 16, so we're fully into ramped up Southern Georgia delivery, and we're happy to report that. Next couple screens, we're going to show you some maps on where the actual work is happening and taking place. All these dots represent a local project or a project that's going to be delivered locally. We always like to pub up our local support and our local push as far as delivery with TIA. We couldn't do it without TIA. Without the locals. TIA runs a very small staff, and without local support like Columbus and Rick and in River Valley, and we get great support all over our districts. But so far to date, in 2 years, we've had 14 of 18 counties, we've had local delivery. So we're always happy to pub up our local support in delivering projects. Next, these are the projects that we currently have in construction. The green dots represent the projects that GDOT has let, and the blue dots represent projects that were locally let. And these are the projects that we've completed throughout the region. So one thing that we really tried to do early on is spread the work out all across the region. That way we're not working one contractor more so than anybody else. We're trying to time and spread the work out through the region, and we've seen great prices through the first 2 years with that logic. Just to highlight 2 projects that we've done so far. This was a locally let project in the city of Folkestone, a small bridge replacement on Homeland Park Road. Underground Excavation Incorporated came in and did this with the locals, and they were able to get this done for an extremely reasonable price of $500,000. So that's one way that TIA can work well with locals to get stuff done and get it done quickly as well. The vast majority of the projects that we've done to date have been widening, slight minor widening and resurfacing. This is a great example in Atkins County. Reams and Sons Construction did this project. It was just let in January of this year and resurfaced 12.3 miles. So it turned out really good, and you can see that's a phenomenal upgrade from the road on the left to the road on the right. Also wanted to touch base real quick and give you a brief update on Heart of Georgia. I believe a couple of you thought that we were going to have the referendum ready for the November ballot. We missed a couple of the slight deadlines whenever we were finalizing the 10-year list for the next 10 years, which would be from 2023 to 2032. But we have the list ready. It's on the shelf. All the requirements have been met. We're looking for the next available potential ballot to go on. And Heart of Georgia will be monitoring that throughout 2021 to see if the ballot arises. If not, it may shift until spring of 2022 for that ballot initiative. So the 10-year forecast will bring in approximately is forecasted to bring in $392 million and would support 580 projects on the investment list in Heart of Georgia. And with that, I'll take any questions that you may have on Southern Georgia.
Is there any questions? Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Kenneth. I think that's a heck of a 2-year-old birthday celebration of the amount of work's happened in Southern Georgia, and I want to commend you and especially Southern Georgia for making that possible. I think that's a really good thing. I wanted just to add in, we're having technical difficulties, so Ms. Lemon's question is directly relatable to this. It goes back to the trip report information and how do we use that or share that with local governments, and we certainly will make sure that they are aware of it. We'll have strategic communications, put it on our banner web, and we'll make sure that ACCG and GMA get it. They both were part of the Georgia Chamber who sponsored the rollout of this. So the Georgia Chamber has been sharing this report locally at each, not only the state Georgia Chamber, but at each Chamber of Commerce. So hopefully that's getting filtered down, but we'll make sure that we get it to GMA and ACCG. One other thing I wanted to add in as a note is that we had 4, again, this on the November election, had 4 more counties to do a single county T-SPLOST. That brings now, the state has, my number won't be exact, but somewhere over 60%, maybe slightly more than 60% of the counties in Georgia are either part of a regional T-SPLOST or a single county T-SPLOST. So that enabling legislation back in 2010 is over half the state now has some form of T-SPLOST, again, making transportation infrastructure. And that is directly relatable to the TRIP report that talks about the local conditions in the cities and the counties. And I will say that report would not be as good as it is today if it had not been for those investments in the 3 original tier regions, and that their data lags a little bit. So I look forward to the future report showing even more positive momentum in our cities and counties as well. So good linkage, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties that Dana, she can hear, but she can't, we can't get through. I don't know if you noticed, but IT's upgraded. We're using all the cameras now, not having to use the laptop standing in front of the podium for virtual purposes. So technology. We're plowing ahead and doing the best we can. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Westmoreland?
Good, great job.
Thanks.
Are you getting any inquiries now from any of these local governments, counties, to have an interest in putting together a group?
Well, we had brief interest with Three Rivers, but aside from 2 counties contacting us, we haven't heard anything from the regional commission.
So you haven't heard anything from Three Rivers?
No, sir.
And this information, this trip, that's a tool that I guess we could use to go into some of these areas that have talked to me, at least in my area, about putting together some type of group, I guess you could call it, to put together a region. So I'll get with you on that. We may meet again.
Yes, sir.
And say, yeah, we're glad to share the experience, and even people like Rick can speak to how it's worked to in Columbus. And I think there's a lot of advocates out there, and with the overwhelming success of Central Savannah River area passing the second round, again, there's a lot of support and success that, it's easy to talk to your contemporaries about how does it work in their county or their city. And so we'll be glad to link some people up and have those conversations, and it's really well. Thanks.
Mr. Floyd?
I'd just like to reiterate, part of Georgia and the River Valley and my areas there, it's been real good, and we appreciate, we have a lot of small, poor counties that's in that River Valley area, and having counties like Muskogee and the city of Columbus and all, it really helps when all those come together, and it draws a lot of help for those small counties.
Good.
We appreciate that.
Any more? Thank you, Kenneth.
Thank you, sir.
At this time, I'll ask Scott Higley to come forward to give us an update on anti-litter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, Commissioner, it's a pleasure to be here with you today to talk about a program, introduce it to you, the one that's very near and dear to my heart. GDOT spends millions of dollars each year millions of dollars each year removing litter from our roadsides. Our crews certainly accept that responsibility. It's just part of what we do. But over the course of the development of this campaign, I've often wondered why that is. Why are people littering, and what can we do to help stop it? So I'm proud to introduce the campaign to you today, and I can tell you it's been, again, a real labor of love for me and my entire team, and a lot of people within GDOT and external contributors who've had something to do with its execution. I can characterize this campaign as an advocacy campaign, and advocacy campaigns are typically educational in nature. So we're essentially providing people with information they need to make a positive decision that benefits themselves or others. And basically what we want to do is to convince people that the beauty of the scene you see here on the right is worth not letting happen what you see on the left. So advocacy campaigns, this is not new for GDOT. A few of the campaigns or programs we've conducted in recent years have really focused on safety primarily. We have Drive Alert, Arrive Alive, and the See and Be Seen campaigns that you're very familiar with regarding motorist and pedestrian safety. And more recently, the Scholastic partnership that we have had, recognizing the risk, which has allowed us to develop educational curriculum based on really the same safety messages that we've developed for Drive Alert, Arrive Alive, and See and Be Seen. So it's not new for us to be heading in this direction, but in the case of Keep It Clean Georgia, we're providing information in a campaign that seeks to convince people to do the right thing and simply not litter. It doesn't sound that hard, does it? As you know, not using seatbelts is still largely one of the causes of fatalities on the roads, and I think I ask myself, why are people not wearing seatbelts out there, and yet it's clearly happening? So we work to change that dangerous habit. And to me, littering is really the same. I think, who is still throwing litter out of car windows? But it's obviously happening. So we're working to change that behavior as well through the Keep It Clean Georgia campaign. About 2 years went into the development of this campaign, so it was a very thoughtful approach that we took, and it was developed with the feedback and assistance of a focus group of about 30 individuals within GDOT who represented a lot of different departments. Certainly, our Office of Environmental Services was involved and played a big role, and at all levels of the organization, and the districts contributed as well. And as we readied the campaign for an October launch, we recognized that there were some strategic imperatives that this campaign absolutely had to satisfy. First of all, it had to be Georgia specific. It couldn't look like another state's messaging, and it had to be ownable by GDOT. It had to be clearly identifiable as a GDOT campaign. It had to be simple and direct. It had to complement a lot of our existing beautification programs and other programs. And certainly it had to align with our existing GDOT branding and our messaging, but importantly, our brand voice, which we worked really hard to be approachable and friendly, and really the antithesis of the stereotype of a stuffy agency. That's not who GDOT is. Had to be able to be implemented and embraced by others outside of GDOT and thus propagated beyond our ability to do so. Had to appeal to everyone, cross-generational and cross-cultural. So we very carefully approached it from that perspective. And then this represents a long-term commitment on the part of GDOT. So it's something that really has to live for years to come. Continue to build our brand equity with our audiences, which is very important, and maintain our unique position out there. The program messaging for any campaign is really very important. And with Keep It Clean Georgia, we were developing messaging on the heels of last year's social media contest, where we asked the public to submit safety messages to display on our dynamic digital signboards on highways across the state. And as you'll recall, not only did we get some great submissions from the public, almost 800 of them, so the judging process was not easy. It was time consuming, but definitely worthwhile. The media and the public responded so well to a lot of those messages that made the cut and made it to our signboards that we felt it gave us license to be somewhat more tongue-in-cheek with our approach to messaging for Keep It Clean Georgia. As you recall, that effort garnered a lot of national news coverage on CNN, a couple of New York publications, the Weather Channel, and ABC's Good Morning America. So we felt that we were on the right path, and you'll see the results of that in a moment. We also felt the development of this campaign really deserved its own mission statement. I kind of think of it as a manifesto, if you will. And I wouldn't ordinarily read a slide full of words to you, but these words are so important. I think I will today because they frame up the focus of the entire campaign. Georgia is a special place, one that millions of people are proud to call home. From the serene mountains and flowing rivers in the north to the rich heritage and the southern charm of the coastal plains, from the vast expanses of wide open countryside to the bustling urban centers that shape industry and culture alike. The common thread running through all of these diverse places and unifying our equally diverse people is pride. We Georgians are a proud people, and rightly so. That pride comes with a protective instinct, particularly for our state's splendor. We don't litter here, and we're making that known. So really words to live by. In terms of the program branding, there's a few reasons why we think it really works. It's very clean and simple. What you see here on the screen is a primary logo mark and a couple of secondary symbols that really are easily identifiable as being at the heart of this campaign. And the messaging is clear and simple. Can't be any clearer than keep it clean, right? It confirms ownership, as you see the outline of the state in all of those marks. That's very clearly a Georgia program, which makes it visually iconic, and that's an important element. It's also scalable across a lot of different platforms. And below here, you see, we're not at the stage yet, but when budgets allow, if we develop giveaway items to help spread the word, spread the message, we'll be able to use those logo marks in the form and fashion that you see here. And of course, if and when we get there, these materials will be recyclable. We don't want to contribute to a problem over time that's contrary to the goals of this campaign. So very important piece of the puzzle here. Now you see a number of different creative treatments associated with the campaign. And as you see here on all of these treatments, the GDOT and the Keep It Clean Georgia logos are front and center. But this is also where you really see that messaging shining through. And this is a creative approach that may not necessarily be intuitive. At the outset, we made a decision not to show you litter in the campaign creative here. And there's a reason for that. We really want to celebrate the beauty of the state of Georgia. You see a highway in the upper left-hand creative with the message, we keep the roads clear, we don't litter here. And that beautiful scene is the Richard B. Russell Scenic Highway, State Route 348 in North Georgia. It's absolutely beautiful, especially in the fall. But that litter isn't a problem that's limited only to the highways. It happens everywhere, and it happens in the most beautiful of natural environments and built environments. So because convincing people not to litter should not be limited to the roads, we made an important strategic decision not to limit our creative to the roads, but to expand it to all four corners of the state. And the imagery here, as you see, is very important. So by using vivid photography and focusing on the beauty of our natural and built environments, we developed messaging that really ties together with it. And you see both serious and humorous messaging here. But these are all examples of slogans that are either a clever play on words or a nod to a song title by a popular Georgia artist or references to places that people know and love and want to protect, and all very importantly capturing people's attention. In terms of the photography, the art direction, I mentioned the vivid photography. The images are everything here. They need to be eye-catching, but they also need to be identifiable, and they need to remind people of places that they want to protect and preserve. And not littering is something everyone can do to accomplish that. We're not doing this on our own. We're working to develop a lot of support and some key partnerships that are really helping us to spread the word. And among those supporters is the Governor Kemp's office. They've been very supportive at the outset of the campaign. The governor provided us a quote, which we're really proud of. And the Georgia Department of Economic Development has been an important strategic partner in this effort. Here you see Commissioner Wilson and his quote. So we're very grateful for that support and those partnerships. But we've also formed an important partnership with the Keep Georgia Beautiful Foundation, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. These partnerships really help us with a successful kickoff, but we can continue to grow the program through expanding partnerships with other types of entities, environmental organizations, Georgia-based corporations. There are, as you know, 159 counties in the state of Georgia, which gives us 159 county commissions. There are 111 visitors bureaus in the state of Georgia of all sizes and all across the state. And those are just some examples of strategic partnerships that we can continue to form over time that'll help us spread the word. So we continue to focus on that as time goes on. The entire campaign and its availability to the public and to our partners really rests on a website and an online toolkit at www.keepgeorgiaclean.com, keepgaclean.com, and it's connected via links to the GDOT website. And on that page, we offer facts about litter, tips to minimize or eliminate it, downloadable fact sheets and other materials that individuals and organizations can put to good use in the fight against litter. And there are a couple of things worth pointing out on this webpage. The first is an encouragement to sign a pledge to fight litter. This redirects to our partners' website, the Keep Georgia Beautiful Foundation, and signatures on a pledge is one of the key ways that they're finding really helps people be more aware about litter and take steps to stop doing it and do their part to clean it up. So we're very happy to direct people to our partners' website for that purpose. And then there are also links to collateral materials and advertisements and social media posts. And what's really great about this is that these materials give local partners the opportunity to customize the materials within the spirit of the campaign, but make them more locally relevant. And so we're proud of the opportunity to be able to provide that to our local partners because geography plays a big part of the role here in terms of how people relate to the creative. Online promotion has been very important. In the era of COVID-19, we couldn't do what we ordinarily our programs do as communications folks. So we would have otherwise probably had a press conference or a large event or maybe even a traveling roadshow, but we can't do that right now, obviously. So we were limited to a digital launch, but that's okay because GDOT and our partners have a strong digital presence through our various channels, and we've worked them, I think, very effectively. What you see here is obviously a large presence on the GDOT website. We posted a blog on GDOT's Extra Mile blog, which got a lot of play and a lot of shares on Facebook in particular and on LinkedIn. Press release, which has been very successful in getting us a lot of attention from media across the state, and I'll talk about that in just a second. In terms of digital and social media, extremely important. Social media is one of GDOT's key ways that we communicate with the public now. And so this is where the clever messaging really comes in and is important. We want our content on social media to be shared across all of our platforms, and that's really how we spread our word. When users share our content, we also gain new fans and followers that way on our Facebook, on our social media channels. And since so many people access those channels through their mobile devices now, we had to be sure that they look great on your phone as well, which you see in the upper right-hand corner. One key aspect of our relationships within GDOT that I think is really important to point out is that our traffic operations department, which controls the messages that you see on the digital signs on the highways, really got behind this program, and I'm so grateful to them for it. As you can see here, they took the messages, they propagated them onto the highways, and that's a really important part of communicating with the public as well. So I want to thank the folks in traffic ops for doing that for us too. This is the confluence of print and online. You all received a copy of the Milepost magazine this morning, which of course is also posted online. And in the Milepost, we had a double-page spread article about the launch of the campaign and what we seek to do with it. So was happy to do that. And then if you turn the magazine over, you'll see that beautiful image of the Richard B. Russell Scenic Highway on the back. So we're using really all of our communications channels to really get the word out. And in terms of the materials that we've developed, some of these haven't been executed yet, but we try to be very thoughtful about what we were putting together for the use, not just by GDOT, but by our local partners. You see posters, billboards, we're prepared to execute across a number of different channels. And you'll see here again, a couple of iconic images here, which just really, I think, resonate with a lot of people. Slogan there with the image at on the University of Georgia campus that references our dogs from UGA. So happy to do that. The Highway 20 ride obviously is very geographically specific, but it's also a reference to the Georgia-based artist, the Zach Brown Band. So again, that's a nod to our cultural and musical heritage. Media coverage has just been great statewide in the 3 weeks since we've launched. We've had, as of a few days ago, about 22 media hits, everything from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to local publications to online publications. And I'm really excited about the average number of viewers on those websites, in excess of about 6.5 million people. So the word is definitely getting out there, and we're grateful to our media partners. And another key media partner is the Georgia Association of Broadcasters. As I've referenced before to this body, the GAB is one of our key partners in propagating messaging across the state. GAB is comprised of about 500 member TV and radio stations across the state, and they cover clearly just a broad network of folks who are listeners or viewers of those stations. And working through that partnership, we're developing a 30-second PSA, which we will show on local TV stations and will air on local broadcast radio stations. So we're excited about that. And then in terms of growing the program over time, we think there's great opportunities to work with local event producers, certainly to work with the Keep Georgia Beautiful Foundation, which has a really robust network of local affiliates. And one of their talents is gathering volunteers for cleanup efforts across the state. So we can help push those cleanup efforts once COVID-19 has passed us, and we can get people out and about again to contribute to that effort in that way. So there are a lot of ways we can continue to grow this program, and we plan to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you today. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Stacey?
First of all, I want to
Thank you.
awesome job well done. Is there any thought been given to the CID? I know in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, I've gotten a lot of calls about trash.
Yep.
Is there any thought about partnering one with the CIDs as part of this, as an extension of the campaign? Because again, we're all in this together.
Right.
That's important. And then the other thing, I think you can do a virtual launch of this that would be very impactful and set the standard for the whole country. So I would just challenge you to think about. I've been on at least 12 in the last 2 days, digital launches of various things from mostly all major corporations, but still, I think you can do it. This is good. This is good stuff. I think you need to consider a digital launch throughout the state and partnering with several other organizations. This is good stuff.
Cool.
I'm impressed.
Thank you for your
Good
kind
job.
comments, and I agree with you on both fronts. I had a long list of potential types of organizations that we could work with, and time didn't allow me to read them all, but CIDs are certainly on that list. So I think there's tremendous opportunity there. And then with regard to a virtual event, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And as the commissioner shared, I think we're getting pretty proficient in producing digital virtual events. So I think that's something we'll definitely explore, but thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Scott, I want to bring up a point. I think that, and Stacey brought up a good point too. A lot of litter is being blown from calling these trucks, garbage trucks and those type things, you know, when you see them going up the road. And I know they try to do the best they can, but we may have to do it a little harder, a little better job, you know, because you do have a lot of litter that comes off of construction trucks and various other things.
Securing loads. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Securing loads is also a part of our messaging, and I didn't show you any of that creative today, but securing loads of all kinds is very important.
Sure.
As you well know, we all see different types of objects along the roadside, which sometimes includes furniture or mattresses or something of that nature that obviously have not been secured properly. So that's part of our messaging.
We see bumpers on our interstate systems and a few other parts of automobiles, and those are things that I hopefully that we can remind people how important that when you're driving our public roads, and the beauty is to try to keep some of this stuff off our system. And the other problem is it can be a hazard as well, as we know. Johnny?
A lot of our problem in southwest Georgia is people riding along, getting a hamburger, getting a what, throw the cups out. It goes back to the home life. They wasn't taught at home. They don't do those kind of things. But one of the big things we are faced with within our litter and cleanup of our garbage cans at the houses and all is the trucks pick it up and spill it all over the roadways. That's one thing we need to work on.
Scott, thank you again for this great report, and it's a great project, and I know our board and our people are going to support you 100%.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to
Mr. Chairman,
reporting on
may I
its
ask a
success
question?
in due time.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
This time, I'm going to ask Mark Mastinardi to come forward and give us the update on the adoption of the bid protest procedures for construction projects.
Sir, good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
The board commissioner. This is a follow-up from last month when I came and introduced some new board rules, or opened the board rules, I should say, to add a section regarding bid protest. We had just a handful of comments we addressed with minor edits. We've distributed those to you, but I'll just share those real quickly with you. We clarified that a bid protest bond is only needed if you're actually filing a protest. It's not needed to bid our work. We didn't intend for that to be the interpretation. Additionally, we clarified that all the timelines associated with that protesting activity exclude the weekends and holidays. We didn't mean for that to be a consequence of the limitations we placed on it. We really wanted it to be an expedited process, but not a gotcha. And lastly, we added flexibility where we could in regard to the rejection of a single bid. If it's a single bid of a state-funded project, we have found a way where we can allow that protest to move forward. So those are the edits that we had. They're very minor in their nature. And with that, I would now ask for the board action on those rules as presented with these minor edits.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt so moved? Got a second? Any other questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries and adopted. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, this time I'll ask John Hippard to come forward for the adoption resolution of changes made in the permitting automated traffic and enforcement devices in school zones.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. A month ago at the last board meeting, the board opened the rule for comments. We received no comments from anyone. So consequently, I am back here today to ask you now to adopt the amended rules as they were presented last month.
Any questions? If not, we entertain a motion for approval. Got a motion, a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. No, so adoption has been carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This time I'm going to ask Patrick Allen to come forward. Be the resolution to open the rules governing the in-station relocation and management of utilities of public right-of-ways.
Morning, Chairman Bowen, members of the board. Come to continue the conversation regarding the board rule 672-11, which deals with managing and accommodating utilities within the public right-of-way, and largely the fees associated with accommodating telecommunications companies or facilities within the right-of-way. Largely, these facilities are not regulated by entities such as the Public Service Commission, owned by for-profit companies utilizing the right-of-way that was obviously intended for primarily a transportation purpose. So as we had the conversation back in the spring, we opened the rule and received a lot of feedback. The primary feedback was, hey, let's have a conversation, given that we were getting into the throes of the pandemic and working towards how we would move on virtually. So I came before you in the summer and said, hey, we needed to regroup, have some conversation with the industry to clarify the proposed rule at that time, and then also work to refine it and move the make it better for this time. So here's kind of how we got here. The rule itself was established many years ago, back when telecommunications, primarily long distance telephone, was considered a luxury, and these cables were being put within the right of way. And as we've evolved over time, we've gone away from telecommunications with telephone connectivity being a luxury to a necessity, and move towards more wireless communications and things of that nature. Telecom Act came about in 1996 as companies started to enter the market and offer fiber optic communications, internet, more cellular communications. And fast forward to maybe just a couple of years ago, the introduction of our next iteration of cellular technology, moving from 4G technology, or from 3G to 4G to now 5G. We have small wireless antennas scattered along our right of way to promote that next generation of cellular connectivity. So what does all this mean? It means that these things are absolutely a necessity. And again, just having this meeting today virtually in this current environment, all of our connectivity is over these cables, be it wireless or wireline communications, utilizing the public right of way. So this conversation is absolutely necessary to bring us forward to modernize a rule that's been in place for many, many years, based on one premise, and now we're folding in a lot of different technologies and trying to accommodate that. So today I'll give you a little bit more of the backstory and kind of how we decided to move forward in updating this rule. Then also go through some of the recommended revisions. I think all of you have the package or have seen it, some of the track changes, the old rule to the new proposed rule. And then I'll ask you at the end for a motion to reopen the rule for public comment. So modernizing this rule, again, connectivity is paramount, and utilization of the right-of-way is also necessary to ensure that we get connectivity across the state of Georgia and really nationally. We want to make sure that we're doing our part to promote that connectivity, modernize our rule, streamline the application of the rule, and provide some certainty for these entities that are requesting permits and requesting to use our right-of-way on a continuous basis. Then also consolidate the rule to make it a little clearer to entities that stand to effect. In front of you, you have the rules. The old rule had 4 sections, just a few definitions relative to trunk communications and long distance cables. And again, that technology is obviously outdated. Most of this connectivity, which falls under kind of that broadband umbrella, is either wireless or communicated over fiber optic cable. So what we once considered long distance trunk communication is usually just a fiber optic cable with many fibers connected to many different things. The section 3 has the fee schedules, which that's sort of the meat of the rule, and where we really focus our energy in trying to update that and make sure that the fees collected under this rule are dedicated to support the utilities program for permitting utilities and the ongoing accommodation of those utilities within the right of way. And then section 4 in the existing rule was used to bring some of those non-communications utilities into the fold, and to allow us a little bit of flexibility to accommodate emerging technology over the years. So as I mentioned, broadband is a key term, which refers to a internet speed, again, mostly over fiber optic cables. Some coaxial does have that capability to provide broadband services, which most of us have, either a cable provider or a traditional telephone provider for our internet services. The picture on this slide is from the corner of, right outside the building, corner of North Avenue and West Peachtree. I mentioned wireless facilities or small cell. That actually is a 5G antenna array right outside the building. And they're obviously scattered all over the metro Atlanta area and other urban areas around the state. And eventually we'll get into suburban and rural areas for that 5G connectivity. But I say all that to say that it boils down to really data transmission is what we're talking about, in the various different media to get that data from one point to the next. And what we've tried to do is really consolidate a lot of those different technologies and boil it down into one rule. and then ensure we can maintain our program, our utilities program, which, again, is second to none nationally in terms of DOT. So speaking of that program, if y'all remember from back in the spring, I talked about 3 buckets, being able to transition from the old rule to what we're proposing as a new rule. 3 things we must make sure we accommodate. There's a tremendous amount of utilities existing in the right of way, and there's a lot of volume of permits that we're dealing with. Bringing that forward to the middle block, which, those are things that the staff across the state and consultant resources that we have, they're dealing with, 10 to 12,000 permits per year, and turning those permits around in approval time much less than our 5-day stated goal. Last fiscal year, we were a little less than 3 days in turning around utility permits. So our folks out in the districts and here in the Atlanta office are working really hard, a lot of hours to get permits turned around. On top of what you'll see in the third box is all the things that we do as we accommodate utilities in the right of way. These are the same things we have to deal with on construction projects. And as you well know, utility delays can cause tremendous problems for delivery of construction projects. So we've done a really good job the last few years of reducing those delays, and that's, again, associated with the dedication we have and the tools and resources that we have to use our subsurface utility engineer program to identify utilities and then work towards resolution in conjunction with design folks to make sure we can avoid, minimize, and mitigate utility impacts on projects. And all those things really boil down to what we're talking about in terms of a recurring annual fee. Those things, there's a point of issuance of a permit, and then the continued occupancy gets into the project coordination and things like that. Just a quick look at our expenditures versus collections over the years. The expenditures, they tend to vary from year to year, but generally speaking, we have not kept up from a collection standpoint. So again, the premise here is to consolidate, but make sure that we're mindful that we've got to, as best we can, kind of fill that gap and make sure we're not supplementing the program with and taking away from other opportunities. So as I mentioned, lots of evolution for this rule that was established, back in the 80s and amended in the 90s as new technology was developed. We've taken all that plus our cost of doing business and boiled it down into what you'll see on the left side of the page, into a consolidated per foot fee for communications cables and a per node fee for those wireless or what we refer to as small cell facilities in the right of way. The existing rule, it can be a little convoluted because there's a breakdown between ADT, certain types of roads, or average daily traffic, so traffic volume considerations, and then population considerations, which provides a sort of a break line between what we would consider urban or rural. So again, this goal here is to consolidate. Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
What's the present fee? I see 50 cents a foot. What's the present fee for that? Is the price still the same?
Overwhelmingly, there's 3 different tiers in the current rule. The higher tier is 5,000 per mile, which equates to about 94 cents per foot. That's the current rule, and overwhelmingly, most of what we permit falls under that based on population. There's not many communities in the state less than 5,000 population. But then if you look at the way the rule's set up now, there's 2 tiers of rural. One is 1,000 per mile for roadways that have less than 2,000 vehicles per day, and then 2,000 per mile for roadways where there's greater than 2,000 vehicles per day. So 3 tiers, and this really rolls it into one. Yes, sir.
We go back and look at these at the end of this fiscal year. Look at
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and again, this rule has been in place for a while, and this is, admittedly, it's been a heavy lift, trying to boil everything together because our program has grown so much since the inception of these rules. Yeah, we do look at it each year to make sure we're, being fiscally responsible. Another addition to the proposed rule is an ability to accommodate or promote or do our part in not impeding rural broadband expansion. We've had a lot of dialogue with the Department of Community Affairs and others to ensure that we provided a pathway for those that are providing that direct connectivity, particularly in rural Georgia. So we have the ability to waive or suspend, there's flexibility in how we can handle promoting that rural broadband connectivity. And one key resource is that broadband map that the Department of Community Affairs has developed, which shows the percentage of unserved in various counties across the state. It even gets down to the census block level. From a DOT standpoint, we may not necessarily go there, but we have data that shows which counties are unserved and what that percentage is. So that provides a great opportunity for us to look for some waiver opportunities. So in summary, as I mentioned, our main focus, consolidate, streamline, do our part to promote connectivity across the state of Georgia. We've incorporated wireline and also wireless. Again, I mentioned small cell 5G connectivity, and the goal here is also to sort of future-proof. So, again, we're talking about small cell connectivity, but down the line, wireless facilities generally might accommodate Wi-Fi or whatever the next generation of cellular communications is. And as far as the fee structure, again, I mentioned the linear fee for communications cables, the ability to waive for unserved areas, the wireless facility accommodations, and then also providing clarity for how we handle what we would consider non-communications utilities, be it electric, water, gas, or the like. So with that, I'll ask for the board to take action to reopen this rule for comment, for public comment. We recognize that there's a minimum 30-day requirement. There's not quite 30 days to the next meeting. So we would ask that the comment period remain open until January 4th. And after that, we would make any necessary revisions and present to the board on the January meeting for final approval.
Sure.
Patrick, the new rules with the waiver, addition, is it safe to say that will satisfy the concerns of folks like the Walton County, Monroe gentleman who wrote that letter?
I think yes, it is short answer. Commissioner, you want to add?
Yeah, I'll add in. I actually responded back to that concern as well. I don't know that we can say that will, I can't speak for that person, but it would be expected that this doesn't change the way we're operating now and actually gives more flexibility, I think, going forward. Very, very much like we do now with public utilities when they look at their cost to deploy utilities in the right of way. We always look at that objectively based on what the situation is. So the rule, he had a little bit of a blurb in that, and I think for sake, let me read that. I hate to have to read something, but I think it's important that the board understands that we're totally in lockstep with the ability to serve or to not impede deployment to unserved areas throughout all of Georgia. I don't want to say rural because unserved doesn't necessarily have a rural connotation sometimes. So let me read that. I think that's very important that the board understand. You do have it, but just so for the record and for anybody watching, it says, notwithstanding otherwise applicable requirements of 47 U.S. Code number 253, the department may waive the provisions of this rule and negotiate individual case basis pricing for annual permit fees with any communications utility where the department deems such individual case pricing necessary or appropriate to achieve the state of Georgia's objective of deploying facilities to provide broadband internet access service to unserved areas of the state of Georgia as identified by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs in conformance with the Georgia Broadband Development Initiative or with any other applicable state or federal law or broadband deployment policy. The department may also waive this rule when deemed necessary for appropriate deployment of facilities to provide broadband internet access services to public and private elementary and secondary schools and provide broadband internet access service to hospitals and other medical institutions, including but not limited to emergency medical centers. And then, as you saw, Patrick, we also included an incentive to co-locate, not to have multiple utilities, but if they can work together in a conduit or on a pole, then there's a reduced fee structure there. So I feel like this really covers us and gives the total flexibility not to be an impediment. And obviously, we are a partner with the other state agencies in making sure unserved Georgia has opportunities for broadband deployment. So just want to make sure that's a very important part. And I do think it addresses the concerns that had been raised in Patrick's due diligence of trying to have industry conversation before coming to you today with something that is just asking for public comment. So this is, again, not a decision point today. This is opening for full public comment.
Russell, I was in that business for quite a number of years. So what will be the procedure for an entity that, say, wants to serve a small city that doesn't have broadband and wants to run underground fiber optic cable to the city of Tryon, Georgia, or something like that? How hard is it going to be for them to get that approval or the waiver of this fees?
Yes, that's a good question. And the board rules gives the ability for when they contact the department for access, then we understand what the situation is, right? They use the DCA map and you'll see, oh, that's, in this example, Tryon's unserved.
Okay.
And so immediately we know that, okay, we're going to have to do something different because we don't want to impede access to unserved areas. So I think going from here, we have to operationalize a rule. So those are some things that will go forward. We have very good, matter of fact, nationally recognized processes, as I mentioned earlier, dealing with like public utilities and impediments and cost and looking a little bit of financials. And again, this conversation is on the private side. Public side is a different conversation. We don't charge public entities utility fees. So again, it depends on the makeup. So it'll be operationalized, and I think it's really sort of a case-by-case basis of who and what is being deployed. So we have to move forward from that. First step is have the flexibility, and then Patrick and his team actually do the business rules, if you will.
Well, I would like to compliment one thing that you said in your presentation. You've gotten your permitting application process down to 3 days for approval, and I can tell you that it was weeks, it was months, less than a decade ago. Wow. So that's what I was told by the people that I worked with at that time. So I want to compliment you on that.
Well, thank you, sir. And I didn't mention that, but our system is 100% electronic, and we're actually in the process of upgrading it. And again, I talked to a lot of my counterparts across the country, and they wish they could be where we are from permitting and coordination standpoint. So I really appreciate that sentiment.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Janine Miller to come up too. She is expert in broadband deployments at her previous roles at USDA and USDOT and even over with the governor and his team prior to coming on board. She's been working in the broadband arena and working on trying to encourage and incentivize broadband expansion through Georgia. And she's certainly been tracking this and engaged at many levels across the state government. So I know she had some comments.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for the time here today, board members. I'll tell you this, the rural broadband, but just access to broadband, no matter what part of the country or the state that you live in, is absolutely vital. In case we didn't know that before this spring and summer, we sure do know it now. I first of all have to commend and thank the commissioner and the leadership here. John Hibbard, Andrew Heath, and Patrick Allen have been going back to the drawing board and really engaging with industry in a very positive, proactive way to help out as we're modernizing these rules and fees for other purposes. Clearly, bringing in the ability to provide broadband access is not only part of the governor's goals. I was working during the summer to see how vital internet connectivity is in today's age, and how isolated people have been who don't have rural broadband access. So it also happens to be part of the ACE Act collaboration with the Department of Community Affairs and Georgia Technology Authority. Amazing partnership and collaboration is occurring. And I'll also say that in terms of national best practices in the state, we also have, I would say, the best broadband map. So we have an incredible tool to leverage the exact right places to potentially give a relief on these fees. That's going to make a huge difference. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the comments, and thank you again to the leadership and staff, and thank you to the board for considering this.
Thank you, Janine. Thank you, Patrick, for this great report and information that's very vital to our program. And if there's no more questions, motion has been made, second has been done, and then all those in favor signify by saying aye, and we will open the rules. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have a resolution. Mr. Bill Duval, will you come up, please? Gives me great pleasure this morning to give you just a little bit of background on Bill Duval. We have this resolution here this morning for him. Bill is a native of Gainesville, Georgia. He was a graduate of Georgia Tech just across the street. He started his career at GDOT in 1992 as a civil engineer, then advanced to a regional bridge inspection engineer and state bridge inspection engineer in the maintenance office for the last 5 years. He has been the state bridge engineer. He has some notable projects, include design for 2 horizontal curved plate girder bridges in the State Route 20 and I-85 interchange. Now that's pretty good. I mean, a curved girder in design to where it would hold up. And also many reconstruction projects, widening bridges in State Route 15 in the North Athens bypass in Clark County. He has served on several AASHTO committees and has been recognized by the Federal Highway for his expertise and won the prestigious James F. Condren Award in 1999. He won the Commissioner's Achievement Award in 1996. And let me simply say, we're going to miss Bill here at GDOT, and we'd like to thank you for your service here and the dedication and expertise for this department and to the people of this state. Thank you, Bill. Now I'd like to read the resolution. Whereas Bill Duval, a Gainesville native and Georgia Tech alumni, began his career with the Georgia Department of Transportation in 1992 in the Office of Bridge Design, starting as a civil engineer, later advancing to regional bridge inspection engineer, state bridge inspection engineer in the maintenance office, in the last 5 years serving as our state bridge engineer. Leading the Office of Bridge Design and Maintenance, where he was responsible for directing bridge design activities, setting policies and guidances for design and maintenance of highway structures, and ensuring delivery of quality projects. Whereas during his tenure, Bill focused on the development of Georgia's bridge program to ensure a safe and sustainable transportation network with a passion for reducing the number of posted and closed bridges on public roads in the state that has contributed to the success of Georgia's low-impact bridge program, which supports the department's commitment to replacing posted and deficient local bridges. Whereas Bill has led many notable projects, including the design of 2 horizontal curved plate girder bridges in the State Route 20 and Interstate 85 interchange reconstruction in Gwinnett County, and interchange reconstruction project widening of 5 bridges on State Route 15, North Athens bypass in Clark County, and the widening and reconstruction of US 80, where he managed the rehabilitation of a historic arc bridge in Muskogee and Talbot counties. Whereas Bill has been a key influencer with the bridge community, serving on several committees such as ASHTO committees on bridges, structures, ASHTO technical and subcommittee, T-5 for loads and load distribution, technical subcommittee T-12 for structural supports for signs, and the NCHRP panel chair for ASHTO LRFD bridge design specifications for light rail transit. Whereas Bill's expertise and leadership is widely revered by Georgia DOT staff as well as his industry peers, having been recognized for his expertise by Federal Highway with the prestigious James F. Condren Award in 1999 and within Georgia DOT by being awarded the Commissioner's Achievement Award in 1996 and the Commissioner's Merit Award in 2014. Whereas the Georgia Department of Transportation and the citizens of Georgia have greatly benefited from his skills, expertise, dedication of the department, and commitment to excellence. Therefore, be it resolved that the State Transportation Board recognizes William Bill Duvall for his exemplary contributions, his loyal service, and for his leadership in unwavering commitment to the citizens of Georgia and the Georgia Department of Transportation. A copy of this resolution shall be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and a suitable copy be presented to Bill Duvall in honor and recognition of his commitment, service, substantive contributions to the Georgia Department of Transportation and to the state of Georgia. I ask for a motion to adopt and approve this resolution. In a second. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Thank you. And Bill, thank you so much. If you will come forward, if you may want to say a few words, and we would like to present this to you in your honor in your retirement.
Thank you, Chairman, and members of the board and commissioners. Thank you for honoring me, allowing me to come in today and stand before you. I will, excuse me, I'll start off by saying I don't have my family with me today, but I want to tell you a little bit about them. I do. My wife is, she teaches at the Grace United Methodist Church, and today is the Thanksgiving celebration, so she couldn't come. And then my 4 children. My youngest is 21. He's working on a job up in New York, and all the others are all working. So, but also in this pandemic, we're trying to social distance ourselves. But I will say that it is great to come in today and see, see some of my, I guess I'd say DOT family and DOT friends, and it's great to see everyone here. So I will just kind of think back a little bit, because like Mr. Bowen said, I graduated from Georgia Tech, but I was a co-op with the Georgia DOT, and so in that case, I got to see quite a bit across the department, and it was a good opportunity to meet people and all. And when I graduated from Georgia Tech, the department was there, or the state was in a hiring freeze, and I took a job and went and worked on power poles down in Florida. And after about a year of that, I reached back out to Georgia DOT and had the opportunity to come back and talk to a man by the name of Walker Scott, who is the head of the roadway design at that point, or the road and airport design, as it was called then. And I'd worked for Walker before as a co-op, and I walked in there and he asked me what I was interested in doing. I said, well, I've got a master's in structures and I really like bridges. And he said, well, you need to meet Paul Lyles. Come on. So he took me downstairs and introduced me to Paul, and thankfully Paul hired me. And I really appreciate the opportunity to work for Georgia DOT in the bridge office. And later on in life, I did get to serve directly for Paul for about 5 years. And I do appreciate his leadership and guidance and just technical abilities. I want to say that, also want to say a special thanks to Paral Patel, who, yes, I worked with in and out of the office in different roles. But the last 5 years of my career, I did work for Paral, and I really admire the work and the guidance she gave me. As an engineer, a structural engineer, we kind of get focused on certain things. We kind of have that laser focus sometimes, and I appreciate the ability for her background and being able to share, broaden out my kind of open my eyes to some other things. And but also, I think really meaningful too was the GDOT Connect program that she basically kicked off, and certainly has done well connecting people. And that was a great program for the last few years. And then as we moved to this pandemic, I think it's just offers another way just to keep people connecting and talking. I do want to say also thanks to Ms. Meg Perkle, Chief Engineer. I'll back up a little bit on that too. I can actually remember the first day that I ever walked into, I had to go to the Chief Engineer's office. I was a bridge inspection engineer and had to go down and talk to Frank Danchez at that time. Certainly, you all have heard the word superload, and we had permitted loads. We didn't do as many back then. So everyone that would come up got political pretty quick. And so I know I had to go down and talk to Frank, and certainly walked in there with trembling knees. But Frank was shoot straight, and was great leader. It certainly later on being able to go in and meet with Meg Perkle, it has been a real thrill. It's been I really appreciate Meg, the trust and the support that you put in me, and just having that behind me just really was a great thing. I will say that working in structures my entire career, working for the Office of Bridge Design and Maintenance has been a truly real thrill. I think what's been really great is just the young staff that we have that continues to grow. In the last few years of my career, we got to kind of work on building back that staff. We've gotten pretty lean, and we've been working our way. We've got some really young and talented engineers. They do a lot of work, they do a lot of design, but on top of that, they also do a lot of review. There's a lot of projects that come in, and they sit down there and they take their time. They do red lines, and all those things translate into quality plans and a good product for the state. But also the other part of that is the bridge maintenance side. In 1997, I went over to bridge maintenance. One thing that sticks out in my mind is Russell loves numbers. Was the number of bridges in the state at that time. It was 13,751, as I recall. We have 11 inspection areas. So the state's divided up into 11 areas, and with crews that would go out and inspect the bridges every 2 years. Well, and that's about 1,100 so bridges in area that they have to inspect and maintain. Well, the last few years of my career, we actually had to reorganize or reshape, restructure our bridge inspection teams. We actually added a 12th area. If you think about it, you take the whole state, you want to create a whole new area, then it's a trickle effect. You've got to balance out across the whole state. The staff did a phenomenal job in doing that. But also what kind of rings true is you look back now and you say, now there's over 14,800 bridges on the public road system in Georgia. So, that's why we had a need to increase that area. But we also did it with no new change in staff. We were able to restructure and provide that. But certainly a great organization. I've really enjoyed working in the bridge community. I will say too that the department as a whole just offers a great opportunity, a great career for engineers that are getting out of school and coming to the department. I think that, we all have a job to do. We all have that focus. Let's, whatever it may be, designing bridges, but the opportunity exists for engineers to learn new things and to try new techniques. And certainly Commissioner has done a phenomenal job making sure that we have the tools available and able to go out there and try new things, and it pays off. I mean, we set the standard, so our consultant community has to rely on the standard that we set So, just in that sense, you think about Northside Drive over Peachtree Creek. That's a project that many of you probably know about. Really difficult site. The Peachtree Creek, the history of flooding. It's next to historic Bobby Jones Golf Course, a park, a FEMA district, and then there's utilities. There's water lines and power lines and everything else. And that's a very, very complex project that the department took on. But what's remarkable too at this point from a structural engineer standpoint is CB Matthews placed the last concrete panels, the precast deck panels on the bridge a week ago. I had a young engineer in a group that designed the bridge. It's a 2-span continuous steel with precast deck panels. Y'all have heard me say that before about the precast deck panels and how we accelerated construction. But this is our first use in the steel, using it for steel girders. And that bridge should be, I don't know exactly, but it should be open to traffic sometime in early December is what I understand. But it's certainly a perfect example of some of the innovative techniques that we've been using. I'm real thrilled for Don Diggeman, who, yes, I've had over my career, I've tried to give opportunities to young engineers to learn new things. If it's UHPC, if it's steel design, if it's whatever techniques, and Don exemplifies that. He's going to really push this office and go more so than whatever I could. I'm really thrilled for Don. I do have a new home. I am working for Atlas, and I'm totally thrilled to be able to stay in this community and be able to be a resource and continue to work along hand in hand, partner with Georgia DOT. With that, I do really appreciate this opportunity, and I thank you. Thank you.
One other item on the agenda for today is we need to vote in changing the December meeting to December the 10th. All those, any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. That's great. Hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. Be safe. And again, thank you for being here, and thank you for those who are on the phones with us, and we hope to be looking forward in December the 10th. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.